live. Let's hit 100 subs on this live and let's inspire somebody to get active. If you just get up for 20, 30 minutes a day, move your body, put your muscles under tension, it'll change your life. And if you read a book, if you attend a meeting, if you spend some time encouraging yourself to be better. But that's the message. Let's get into these 100 push-ups. See how many people come in. No good entertainer will keep you on the team for a little bit. Hold on, they're gonna start popping in, but
if I hadn't found a way to correct it quickly. I had the sourest puss you ever gazed on in all your life, and still an old tintype to prove it. There was a reason. My father died when I was a boy, leaving my mother with 5 small children and no insurance. Mother had to take in washing and sewing to feed and clothe us and try to keep us in school. That was back in the gay 90s, though they weren't very gay for us. Our little home was always cold. We never had heat anywhere but in the kitchen, and we didn't even have a carpet on the floor. Children's epidemics ran wild in those days. Smallpox, scarlet fever, typhoid fever, diphtheria. It seemed as though there was always one or more of us down with something. Haunted constantly by sickness, hunger, poverty, and death, my mother lost 3 of the 5 children during these epidemics. So you see, we rarely had very much to smile about. In fact, we were actually afraid to smile and act happy. Soon after I started out to sell, I discovered that a worried, sour expression brought results that were just about infallible. An unwelcome audience and failure. It didn't take long to realize that I had a serious handicap to overcome. I knew it wasn't going to be easy to change that worried expression on my face, left by so many years of hardship. It meant a complete change in my outlook on life. Here is the method I tried. It began to show results immediately in my home, socially, and in business. Each morning, during a 15-minute bath and vigorous rub-down, I determined to cultivate a big, happy smile, just for that 15 minutes. I soon discovered, however, that it couldn't be an insincere commercialized smile developed just for the purpose of putting dollars in my pocket. It had to be an honest-to-goodness smile from deep down inside, an outward expression of happiness from within. Now, it wasn't easy at first. Time and again I found myself during that 15-minute workout thinking thoughts of doubt, fear, and worry. Result? The old worried face again. The smile and worry won't mix. So once again I'd force the smile. Back came cheerful, optimistic thoughts. Later, this experience seems to substantiate the theory of the great philosopher and teacher, Professor William James of Harvard. Action seems to follow feeling, but really action and feeling go together. And by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling, which is not. Let's see how starting off with a good 15-minute workout of the smile muscles helped me during the day. Before entering a man's office, I would pause for an instant and think of the many things I had to be thankful for. Work up a great, big, honest-to-goodness smile, and then enter the room with the smile just vanishing from my face. It was easy then to turn on a big, happy smile. Seldom did it fail to get the same kind of smile in return from the person I met on the inside. When Miss Secretary went into the boss and announced me, I feel sure she reflected some part of the smiles we'd exchanged in the outer office, for she would usually come back still wearing that smile. Let's assume for a moment that I'd gone in worried or forcing one of those rubber band smiles. You know, the kind that snaps right back. Don't you think that secretary's expression would have practically told her boss not to see me? Then, walking into the boss's office, it was natural for me to give him a happy smile as I said, "Mr. Livingston, good morning." I've found it pleases people when I pass them on the street to give them a big cheerful smile and merely say, "Mr. Thomas." It means so much more to them than the usual, "Good morning. How are you? Hello." If you know him well enough, try calling out just his first name, Bill, with a great big smile. Have you ever noticed that the breaks seem to go with the fellow who has a sincere, enthusiastic smile, and so frequently against the fellow who goes around looking dissatisfied, disgruntled, and glum? Telephone companies have proved by actual test that the voice with a smile wins. Pick up your phone this instant, open your conversation with a big smile, and feel the difference. It might be a good idea if someone would invent a mirror that would be attached to the phone so that we could see the difference. I have asked thousands of men and women in audiences all over the country for a pledge to smile, just for 30 days, their happiest smile at every living creature they see. Easily, 75% of the people in each audience willingly raised their hands. What has been the result? I quote from one letter received from a Knoxville, Tennessee man. It is typical of several letters which have come to me. "My wife and I had just about agreed to separate. Of course, I thought she was entirely at fault. Within a few days after I began to put this idea into action, happiness was restored in my home. I then came to realize that I had been losing out in business because of the solid, not my wife's at all. I'm a totally different man from what I was a year ago. I'm happier because I've made others happy too. Now everybody greets me with a smile. In addition, my business has shown surprising improvement." This man was so excited about the results he got from smiling that he kept writing me for years about it. Dorothy Dix has said, "There is no other weapon in the whole feminine armory to which men are so vulnerable as they are to a smile. It is a thousand pities that women put no stress on cheerfulness as either a virtue or a duty, because there is no other quality that goes so far toward making a marriage a success and keeping a husband nailed to his fireside. There is no man who doesn't hasten his footsteps to his own home at night, if he knows he is going to find in it a woman whose smile makes sunshine within it."
Like for
I know it may sound incredible that they can cultivate happiness with a smile, but try it just for 30 days. Give every living soul you meet the best smile you ever smiled in your life, even your own wife and children, and see how much better you feel and look. It's one of the best ways I know to stop worrying and start living. When I began doing this, I found I became more welcome everywhere. 22. How I learned to remember names and faces. One year I taught a sales course at the Central YMCA, 1421 Arch Street, Philadelphia. During the course, we had a memory expert come in and give us 3 nights of memory training. That training made me realize how important it is to remember a man's name. Since then, I have read books and heard several lectures on the subject. In business and social contacts, I have tried to apply some of the ideas I learned. I found that I had much less difficulty remembering names and faces when I remembered these 3 things which all the experts teach: impression, repetition, association. If you have any difficulty remembering these 3 rules, as I did, here's a simple little idea that made it impossible for me to forget them. I just thought of the name Ira. I-R-A are the first letters of these 3 words. Let's take a little time to analyze each one. 1. Impression. Psychologists tell us that most of our memory troubles are really not memory troubles at all. They're observation troubles. I guess that was largely my trouble. I seemed to observe a man's face pretty well, but usually failed completely in getting his name. Either I didn't listen when being introduced, or I was unable to hear the name clearly. Guess what I did? You're right. Nothing. I just skipped it as though the name meant nothing to me. But if the other person failed to pay any attention to my name, I felt hurt. If he took a real interest in my name, made sure he got it accurately, it never failed to please me. I became so much impressed with the importance of this first rule that I began thinking of it as an unpardonable discourtesy if I failed to listen attentively and get a name correctly. How can you get it correctly? If you don't hear the name clearly, it is perfectly proper to say, "Would you mind repeating your name?" Then if you are still not sure, it is proper to say, "I'm sorry, would you mind spelling it?" Is the other person ever offended by your genuine interest to know his name? I've never heard of it. So, the first thing that helped me to remember names and faces was to forget myself and concentrate as hard as I could on the other person, his face and his name. This helped me overcome self-consciousness when meeting strangers. They say the eye actually takes a mental photograph of things we see and observe. It is easy to prove this because you can close your eyes and recall a stranger's face as you're looking at a picture of him. You can do the same thing with a name. I was surprised how much less difficulty I had in remembering names and faces when I made a real effort to observe a man's face and get a clear, vivid impression of his name. 2. Repetition. Do you ever forget a stranger's name within 10 seconds after being introduced to him? I do, unless I repeat it several times quickly while it is fresh in my mind. We can repeat his name immediately. "How do you do, Mr. Musgrave?" Then, during the conversation, it helps me a lot if I use his name in some way. "Were you born in Des Moines, Mr. Musgrave?" If it is a difficult name to pronounce, it's better not to avoid it. Most people do that. If I don't know how to pronounce a name, I simply ask, "Am I pronouncing your name correctly?" I find people are glad to help you get their name right. If other people are present, they are glad too. It makes it easier for them to understand the name and remember it. Now, after doing that, you are on the spot if you forget a person's name. And I'm quite likely to forget it unless I repeat the name silently to myself several times during the conversation, in addition to speaking it aloud. Likewise, if you want to make sure that he remembers your name, you can usually find an opportunity to repeat your own name. Perhaps something like this. "And he said to me, 'Mr. Betcher, we've just had one of the best years.'" Frequently down at the first opportunity. Just seeing the name written out is an advantage. Being introduced to several people at the same time is a tough spot for anybody. Here's an idea I got from my friend Henry E. Strathman, prominent builder's supply and coal merchant of Philadelphia, which has helped me. Henry once had a poor memory, but cultivated such a remarkable ability to remember names, faces, and facts that he makes a hobby of addressing large meetings, demonstrating his methods. Let me quote Mr. Strathman. "In meeting groups, try to get 3 or 4 names at a time, and take a few moments to assimilate them before trying the next group. Try to form a sentence of some of their names to fasten them in your mind. Example. Last week, at a dinner where I identified about 50 in a group of men and women, the guests at our table were introduced by the Toastmaster. The following names were called: Castle, Kammerer, Owens, Goodwin, Kaiser. This was duck soup for making a sentence, and when identifying the audience later, I showed them the power of association with the following. It brings back a picture of World War I. The Kaiser owned a castle. The camera showed it was a good one. These are very effective and stay with you a long time. They're not always so made to order, but if you are on the alert for them, it is surprising how often they occur. In groups of 1 or 2, many puns are easily brought to mind, which hold the impression for you. I used this idea to advantage just recently. I met with a committee of 4 dentists.